The key to success on the field and in your backyard is a comprehensive game plan. So if you're building a fence or a deck this year, trust a Turkstra coach to design, quote, or order the right materials for your project. Visit a Turkstra Lumber near you to learn more.
From the Ticats Audio Network, this is the Coach O Show with Luke Tasker.
Welcome back to the Coach O Show with Luke Tasker. Ticats coming off a loss to Edmonton at Tim Hortons Field with a long rain lightning delay. That was last Thursday, and getting ready to go out west this coming Saturday the 26th. That's a 7 p.m. Eastern time zone start, kickoff for that game. Unusual for our BC games, but good for us, good for all the listeners in Hamilton. That'll be 7 p.m. Hamilton time. As always, listeners, get ready to send your questions to gameday@ticats.ca. Those are questions for Coach O. Each week, we're going to pick a question from fans like we've always done to ask Coach. We have one later in this episode. That's gameday@ticats.ca. You can send those questions for Coach. Coach, last week, tough loss, obviously. Maybe let's start with offense. What's standing out to you as you're getting ready for this BC game, as you watch that game film? What stands out as the biggest thing, the biggest issue that needs correction before you go out west to BC?
I think just consistency. That's what it is. I always start with, you piece it all together. I thought we had a great response to their score, moved the ball down the field, took us 3 downs, but we put it in. End result was a touchdown, and I thought that was extremely positive. I think the other thing that was really good is we didn't turn the ball over. Like we didn't, I'm saying interception-wise. Did result in a few more sacks holding the ball, but at the end of the day, we took care of the ball there. I thought we ran the ball effectively. I thought the ball control was good, but, when you only get down to the score zone or red zone, as it's more commonly known, you want to find a way. And it's tough when you don't come away with points. We had a tough day kicking the football, and to me, that's an offensive play also, meaning field goals. Yeah. So you can have great drives, but when you leave 10 points out there in a game like that, it makes it tough. And so it's easy to say, to point to the offense, but there's a lot of things that go into it. If you're ending up with 3 points, yeah, it's not your goal, but it does help, and those add up. All of a sudden it's 9 more points, and the game changes. So, there's definitely things, but I think on a short week, meaning with a change in the dynamics of the room, obviously at the coordinator position, receivers understanding things. I thought they did a decent job collectively. And when I say all this, Luke, the ultimate goal is to win. But when you do break it down, when you go part, whole versus whole, part, the whole is we need to win. But when you break it down to the part, whole, on your way to a win, there's lots of things to gravitate to. And so looking for the offense to take another step this week against a very good BC Lion defense. Yeah,
no, that's interesting insight. I remember as a player, unfortunately, fans are sort of stuck in they can only the whole. You just want to win.
Absolutely,
and you don't have any control over anything. And it's just, but as a player, I remember losing even sometimes bad games, and then you turn it on, and you think, man, like it only would take 3 things changing. Like if I just did 3 things better, that'd have been the best game of my life, maybe. But as it stands, I didn't do anything. I had 2 catches for 25 yards, but it's a handful of really controllable factors different, and it would have been a different game for me. So the part whole is a very interesting and maybe I don't know, sports psychology. Maybe I would say it's a good way of maybe approaching a football game. Yes, Taylor Powell. So obviously young quarterback still. I mean, it's hard to come in especially as a rookie and take over for 2 quarterbacks that have went down when you were sort of had your learning cap on, and all of a sudden you've got your football helmet on. And so, do you recognize progression in his game? You mentioned protecting the ball as far as turnovers and interceptions go.
Absolutely. And I think he did that. And sometimes there's a different cost with that, right? Maybe we could have got rid of the ball quicker, but sometimes when there's an emphasis on not turning it over, you're going to hold it for that split second longer. And, not all sacks are equal. Some are on the quarterback, some are on the O-line, some are on receivers, maybe heading the wrong way. So it's a collective thing when it comes to sacks. It's easy analytically to say, oh, the O-line's got to pick it up. Well, not everything's equal, right? And you know that. And I don't want to get too in depth, but that's the truth. And that's where stats tell a portion of it, and it is a variable to look at, but it doesn't tell the whole story. So when it comes to Taylor, you see the improvements, but there's growing pains. There just is, and it's not from a lack of trying. We got to pick things up. I know we'll move to special teams and defense. We're kind of keeping it, offensive centered right now, but there's other ways to help your quarterback other than just on offense. And so I see him working at it, wanting to get better. And, there's very few quarterbacks, people would have to name them for me, that just were inserted in. And I'm talking about not like with CFL experience, right? I'm saying just coming in and then just lighting it on, and then it's their show for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
You're going to be hard pressed to find that. And that's just the truth and the facts. In the meantime, how do you coach around that and find ways to get in the win column? That's what it's about.
I take it. So yeah, people are going to look at 7 sacks. That's a tough stat line in that game. But I think you're touching on maybe, the truth is nuanced, and the truth is always nuanced. But in this case, is it obvious as you look through these? Are you seeing, hey, these 3, Taylor, you escaped in the wrong direction, or you escaped too soon? You need to stay in that pocket even though it's shrinking. And these 4, these are the offensive line. Is it as simple as that you can break it into categories of sort of blame or coaching?
Absolutely. I think everybody's got to take the ownership. All I'm suggesting is that, there's 2 schools of thought, maybe 3, maybe 4, but there's those that say, hey, you can say whatever you want. It's 7 sacks. And I would say, absolutely, you're correct. They're not all equal, though. And one could say, yeah, it is. It's a sack. But that's not how you work from the inside out. You got to dig into the why. Right. And so, the result is the result. No challenging that. Moving past that, they're not all equal. Sometimes we got beat off the edge, just the way we beat people off the edge. When you have a pass play called and somebody's wide open and you executed it perfectly in practice, and all of a sudden in the game, the tackle whiffs or a guard whiffs or the center whiffs, it's tough duty. And now at that point, you can say, I'm still going to try to force this, or I'm going to throw it right before the receiver's out of his break, or I'm going to have to eat it and live for another day. And I thought he did a good job of living for another day. Now there's other ones where he could have got rid of the ball and probably saved it. And those are the things that internally you want to see those improvements there. But in the meantime, we'll continue to grind and work, and nobody's if you come out and watch practice and you watch the prep and you watch these guys come in here and give it their all, you'd be proud.
Yeah. The other sort of standout stat of that game is what you already touched on, is the 3 missed field goals. Maybe quarterback is a comparable, isolated position like a kicker, but probably the kicker is the most isolated person on the football field. How do you help a kicker? How do you coach? Is there something that you and Jeff Reinbold can do to help Mark Leggio bounce back from a 3 missed field goal game?
Well, yeah, that's part of it is coaching, but ultimately it's no different than, when I was trying to prepare you as a receiver. I can yell at you all the way till you get in the huddle. At some point, I got to be quiet and just let you perform. And it's no different there, as you can have these tools, but oftentimes it's not the physical things. We're playing professional football, and I'd say that everybody's good and the majority are great. And the physical tools are usually what it is, but it's the mental stuff. I think sometimes it's what's between the ears that separates people and whether they're able to respond from adversity or not. And at the end of the day, you can't fool yourself, right? And that's at any position, and that's in life in general, right? Like you got to be real about what it is. So, yeah, there are things that Jeff and I can do. Mainly from my point, it's like get back up off the, you fell off the bike, get up. and let's pedal it again. And you show them things of success. Yeah, there's isolated individual tools, keeping your head down and that. I'm not a professional kicking coach. That's what's unique about the CFL, but we've never had those, right? So there is a lot of onus on the kicker, but he's responded. He put it through the post in practice, and that's great. But my biggest thing is to make sure he's equipped between the ears, has the full confidence, and goes out there and performs.
Yeah. So 2019, Coach, even 2018, when you were in the receiver room with me and Speedy and those guys, and your sort of emphasis on positivity and on the correct mindset of an athlete was great for me as a player. And in 2019, I felt like our team meetings were really focused. We had a very cohesive message throughout that season, throughout that really successful season of 2019. You mentioned with Legio, kind of showing him maybe some inspiration, some positivity. Do you have that approach in with your team right now too? Yeah, 3-6. Yeah, tough loss to Edmonton, but a lot of work left to do. The season's still alive in a sense. Do you have is positivity sort of the message you lead with, even in this place where, even coming off of this loss, even, sub 500?
It's always that fine line to what I say between grace and accountability. And so the football is a game of mistakes. Human beings make mistakes. That's where our WAWAT comes in, Luke. And you know what that, and for those around, they're saying, what is a WAWAT? It's what are you working on today? It's just an acronym for that. And some people, relay that into being 1% better or whatever it looks. But we're always going to give the opportunity for our people to get better and specific, deliberate practice. This is your opportunity to write it down, and then do you follow through on it? And that's really between you and you, meaning the player and himself. And that's for coaches too. I think this can be used in life. This can be used all over the place. And it's not a fad. This is it's people-based. And when things are people-based, you're going to have a better chance of sustainability. And so the messaging, at times is positive, but we address elephants in the room. And I can see, when you crank, we kind of use the ship analogy a little bit, and I think I might have did that, but when you decide to just turn around with a cruise ship, yanking on the wheel, it's not going to make a hairpin turn. It's going to turn slow. And sometimes you're going to see progress, sometimes you're not. You got to stay the course. And so that's what we're doing. We're staying the course. We feel like our foundation is solid. We get it. We understand this is a performance-based business, period. However, if you just focus on that, then you're defeated. Right? You can't focus. You have to focus on your deliberate practice and getting better. And some days you're going to have more energy than others. And some days some games you're going to get the tip ball. Some days the ball is round and it always bounces to you. And most of the time it has points and it bounces away. That's just football. And so when you have a game of mistakes, let's make the least amount and let's not make repeated ones. And that's the encouraging part. And this is part of the part before you get to the whole. The whole is you got to win. Okay, duly noted. Okay, got it. Focusing on the win doesn't get the job done. Done this for 20 years as a player and a coach. Been on some great teams, been on some average teams, been on some bad teams. And the first thing you got to do is stay together. And sure, I've been in rooms where you get, less regular words than swear words and negativity in that, and that's fine. If your football team can respond to that, that's great. But you're dealing with people now. And as well as I do, you're going to take enough, and then it's going to fall on deaf ears, and then it's going to become a call center environment. You're just going to check in and do your job and leave. So
right.
Grace and accountability. And there's bonding. You want them to play cribbage and hang out and do some things and have some dinner and go get oysters and do their thing. That's what you want. That's part of it. All the great teams I've been on had that. You talked about the bond in your room, or your year and years in general. So I would say that we found a nice balance between grace and accountability. We're not afraid to attack we don't attack people as much as we attack problems. Let's say it like that. If you said, let's cut this down, what are you talking about? We're going to attack behaviors and challenges really hard. I find when you attack people, you can draw your own conclusion to that.
Yeah, that's great. Really helpful insight. And as you answered that question, I thought so many things came to my mind about my own career and our time together. You know, I used to run onto the field, and I would be saying to myself, here, see, run, catch, here, see, run, catch, here, see, run, catch, and totally trying to take the whole of the game and the whole of everything out of it, and only have the one part in front of me of hear the play, see the defense, run the route, and catch. And especially I had to do it so much, especially after I had just done something poorly, like dropped a pass, or if we just did bad on our previous drive, or if we were losing, it was even more important to focus on the part. And hear, see, run, catch was my motto to myself of just, forget about everything else about the game right now and just hear the play and the snap count. And you just get lost over the course of a season, but even in the course of a game, you can just get, of course, Tommy, one of my mentors, he always said the fog of war. It's just you can forget why you're doing it or what you're supposed to be doing, and if you don't break it down to the littlest detail for you. And I remember the years that we spent together, the ups and downs of those seasons. It, like you mentioned, it also came down to the time with the guys, day 3 dinners, and funny enough, the trip to BC was always a highlight of the year. Samurai Sushi was we would get off the plane and immediately go to Samurai Sushi and all great restaurants and stuff in BC. So I don't know, Coach. Maybe this weekend is a turning point for your guys when they go and have a blast in BC.
I think so. There's something to be said for bonding and road trips. Ultimately, it's got to be done on the field, but there's so much that goes into it. And, at the end of the day, you got to stay the course. You got to find out the formula and what works for your football team. This year, what do we want it to look like in November? Basically, two questions you always ask: what has to happen and what can't happen? And then you got to also be flexible enough to deal with injuries. All injuries aren't equal, obviously, right? The number could be equal. Every team could have 50, but are you losing leaders? Are you losing what are you losing? Everything is not equal, and that's where the analytics and stuff tell partial truths. But we'll keep doing things the right way, working hard, having fun. There's no doubt about it. Don't get it twisted. Winning is fun, and we go from there. But morale is good. The work ethic is good.
Great. Let's get a fan question in here before the end of our show here. Remember, you can send your questions for Coach O to gameday@ticats.ca. This week is a question from Daryl in Hamilton. Daryl says, Coach, it seems like the Ticats are always making a late run for the playoffs. I can only remember a few years where the postseason was, quote, locked up for the Ticats early on. Why do you think this is? And do you think your team can once again make a late run this year? Thank you, Daryl.
Yeah, fair question, Daryl. And boy, I'll tell you what, I've been here since 2013, and I think all but the year I was with you, Luke, in my first year as a head coach in 19. I think that's probably what Daryl's referring to here. The answer is every year your team's different, and sometimes it takes longer to figure out. Like I said, sometimes the ball's round, and as we know, it's built with points, and sometimes you get those bounces. And I think the one thing that has to be consistent is just playing hard, having a plan, and sticking to it. And obviously you got to stay a little bit healthy along the journey. I don't have an answer, or we would have fixed it in 14. We'd have fixed it in 15 when I was the coordinator. Nobody likes starting 1-3, 1-4. It's trying, but it's part of it. And that's the beauty about the CFL, is that you start slow in the NCAA, or maybe U Sports, or like you're done. You're pretty much done, and you're on to the next year, where you can figure it out in this league, and there's a back half of the season to be played, and that's when you want to be playing your best football. So Do I think this team has the ability? Absolutely. The answer is yes. That's what it is. And the thing is, you know, this will be a little bit hard to palate for some people, but the goal is not to make the playoffs. The goal is to win the Grey Cup. And I don't ever lose sight of that. That's the vision. It's not, the season's like this, let's get to the play. No, we want to be playing our best ball, and whether we're on the road or at home, we're still going after the Grey Cup. I'm not going to be defined by the record or whatever. That's for everything else and at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. We're practicing every day like champions, not to compete. And that's just the truth. That's you can come into the meetings, and that's what it is. And you know that, Luke. Our goal when you were there was to be 18-0, and as soon as we lost a game, the new goal was to be 17-1. And after you lose that one, it's to be 16-2. We're never going to prepare to lose, and we're not going to have rose-colored glasses. But we're not preparing and going through all this to compete. So absolutely, Daryl, we can get this done this year.
Yeah. To play the analyst here, the Hamilton and Ottawa both have 3 wins. Saskatchewan in the West has 5, and Calgary 3 in the West. And so, to Daryl's question, there's everything is still available for this CFL season halfway through for the Ticats. Coach, that was very helpful insight. And let's take a moment here for our sponsors, Terkstra Lumber. Coach O Show with Luke Tasker is presented by Terkstra Lumber. Check out the project coaches at Terkstra Lumber. They can help with every part of your home renovation, from designing a deck to ordering a new front door. Learn more at TerkstraLumber.com. And fans, remember, Daryl had his question on today's show, and you can send your questions to gameday@ticats.ca. Coach, always love your message and your energy, and I really appreciate your time. Good luck as you guys get ready to go west to BC. Thanks a lot.
Another episode of the Coach O Show with Luke Tasker is in the books. Let us know your thoughts. Email us at gameday@ticats.ca. Coach O and Luke are back next week to discuss the latest from the locker room. Subscribe to the Ticats Audio Network on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.